according to Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero, it's official. Sam Darnold is the QB2 of the San Francisco 49ers. Trey Lance has been relegated to QB3. I called this my first ever Harvey Hour fired up. I talked about this. I believe the opening topic was that Trey Lance, when Brock Purdy was officially announced, or was at least according to John Lynch, Brock Purdy was probably 99% going to be QB1. I said on this show, Trey Lance is done. His chances of becoming a quarterback one for the 49ers are now officially at 0%. Just because what we understood was Brock Purdy, while healthy, was undefeated. Completely undefeated, looked great. I mean, hell, he was getting compared to Kurt Warner, Tom Brady. Some said he had, I believe Steve Young said he had some traits of a Patrick Mahomes. So that's what the 49ers had in a quarterback. They had potentially the next coming of Kurt Warner and Tom Brady with the selection of the draft. Kurt Warner went undrafted. Tom Brady went in the 6th round. Now you had some traits of a Patrick Mahomes, who right now is the best quarterback in the league. And then some people are saying the best quarterback in NFL history. You had that as a quarterback. Now, you bring in Sam Darnold. By the way, I'm starting to feel bad for Trey Lance, and I'll talk about that later on, but you bring in Sam Darnold for whatever reason. Who knows? Kyle Shanahan says, he could revitalize his career here underneath the system. And lo and behold, we take a look throughout the preseason. I mean, Trey Lance didn't look that great. I mean, this may as well go. I think that this could be a vote for the luckiest play so far this season, and this was in week 1 of the preseason. I mean, you got to be kidding me. The Raiders have had the 30th ranked secondary, and this is clearly why. You can't get an easy interception, and somehow this ball gets tipped directly into the arms of a waiting tight end right in the end zone. That should have been an interception. What about this play, though? Trey Lance staring down his receiver, the Raiders linebacker staring at him. That should have been an easy interception as well. I mean, you got to be kidding me with this. So far, in the week 1 of the preseason, Trey Lance should have had 2 interceptions. Okay, what about week 2? Well, week 2, he did have an interception, and he almost had a missed one late in this game as well. But this one was just bad. Trey Lance looking down the field, and then all of a sudden, he knows he has his running back to his right, but doesn't realize what exactly is going on. Bad pocket presence. He sort of just quickly glances and throws the ball at his running back. The defensive end, number 91, clearly has that tackle beat. That's an easy tipped interception right there. What about Sam Darnold? Sam Darnold looked really good in that first preseason game. An absolute dot. So I can understand why. Sam Darnold, maybe not in practice necessarily, but at least in the preseason, like in the actual games, Sam Darnold has looked much, much better than Trey Lance has. Now, there was a little bit of hope, and I talked about this on Monday, that there could be a little bit of hope when it came to Trey Lance because he actually looked somewhat competent in late in that Broncos game and actually led them to I believe it was a game-winning field goal, if I'm not mistaken. So there was some competency, so that actually gave maybe some 49ers fans and some Trey Lance fans some faith that he could potentially take that backup quarterback spot. But in reality, the way practices look, the way the preseason game has worked, and just based on circumstances, Trey Lance is now the QB3. I'm not that shocked because I saw the report from Mike Silver back in January, and I talked about it in March, how Trey Lance's trade value was a 3rd-round pick. And I was like, go for it. You have to get something for him. You're not going to use him. Brock Purdy's clearly the better quarterback. You got to get something for him. And now, being behind Sam Darnold, you're QB3 behind what I think a large part of the NFL and a large part of NFL fans thought of Sam Darnold. He was a complete bust. If you're behind him, that kills your trade value even more. Now what are you looking for? At very best, maybe a 4th-round pick, but probably a 5th or below for Trey Lance, a guy who the 49ers moved 3 first-round picks to get. I'm just, the Jets and Robert Saleh still have faith in Zach Wilson. Now, while I don't think that's a great idea, I can understand somewhat why. Because you have an old quarterback that you traded for in this offseason, and you're hoping that Aaron Rodgers can sprinkle in some magical pixie dust and make Zach Wilson into a smarter quarterback. Because we saw last season, he didn't look that great. Literally in 2 Patriots games, threw away some of those games. But now, Trey Lance doesn't have that. What Trey Lance has is Sam Darnold, who Kyle Shanahan has full faith in, even though Sam Darnold's been there for like 5 minutes, and then Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, who, when healthy, was undefeated. So there's a lot of faith there, and what needs to happen is Trey Lance doesn't have that type of, it's really bad circumstances, I think, because Trey Lance had his opportunity. I mean, back in, 2022, this past season, he was given the keys to the kingdom. Back in January, of 2022, January 2022, Jimmy G went in his goodbye interview and said, yeah, this is Trey Lance's team. Kyle Shanahan said this is Trey Lance's team. But what I found very funny at the time was they actually, in that offseason, restructured Jimmy G's contract to bring him back. Maybe as a mentor piece, maybe as a true backup quarterback that's a reliable piece in this Kyle Shanahan system that made it work. Jimmy G, while people say he's a below-average quarterback and really a bad quarterback, he made Kyle Shanahan's offense work so much so he could have been to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. But instead, he made it to a Super Bowl. Then there was a lot of injuries back in 2020. Then 2021, he made it to the NFC Championship game and led in the fourth quarter against the Rams, who ended up being the Super Bowl champions that year. It was just bad circumstances. And so what I think the 49ers should do, just out of respect of Trey Lance, is, and what the report is, they're looking at options. You got to get off him. Because I guarantee you, if you hold on to him for week after week after week, or at this point this year, and then you hold on to him for, maybe throughout the offseason of next year, hoping to trade him next regular season, it's literally just diminishing value for Trey Lance. If Mike Silver, I believe he works for the San Francisco Chronicle, if he says that back in January of this year that Trey Lance is worth a third-round pick, now being demoted below Sam Darnold, a league-wide bust, I would say, and below Brock Purdy, who just came onto the league, just came onto the scene, I mean, it ain't a third-round pick no more. My guess would be 5th or below, and that's for a guy who the 49ers traded 3 first-round picks to get, and I believe there's also another second-round pick in that trade. I don't know what else to do about Trey Lance. He has a sub 55% completion percentage. Didn't look all that great. He looked nervous. He looked jittery. He did not, really have much confidence in the preseason games. And you might say small sample size. They've seen him 3 straight years in training camp and in practices. While it's a small sample size and maybe NFL games, that's just because every quarterback that the 49ers have had since Trey Lance has got there has been better. Jimmy G has been better, and now Sam Darnold's been better. I mean, this is just an unfortunate situation. And my 2 cents on this topic would be you got to get off him. You could send him to the Raiders, who have Brian Hoyer as a backup, even though Aiden O'Connell looks really good. You may send him there. I will look at the Packers as a potential QB2 to Jordan Love. You may want to send him to the Falcons. I don't trust Desmond Ridder. Arthur Smith and that organization does. I think Trey Lance could be better than Desmond Ridder. And based on the way Arthur Smith is going, the rumors are they want to be a run-heavy team. Trey Lance being 6'4", 220, and a very athletic and mobile quarterback, he can probably make that work. Could we see if the Patriots get off Mac Jones? Could we see that the Patriots go out and get Trey Lance? We could see a number of teams maybe. I would have said Cleveland early on before I saw it was a DTR or DRT. In the offseason, he looked really, really good. And in these preseason games, he looked really good. So I don't think Trey Lance would work there. Tampa, potentially, if they're not in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, or maybe they win just enough games to maybe not even be in the Drake May sweepstakes, you may look at Trey Lance there. There are a couple teams. Geno Smith, we don't know what he's going to exactly look like. You don't really have a backup plan there. Drew Lock, I don't think is a great backup plan. There's a couple teams out here that you can maybe make it work, that maybe make the most sense. Could he go over to the Rams, the 49ers rival there? It seems like they tried to get off Matt Stafford in this offseason, tried to trade him away. They couldn't get it done. Could we see potentially Trey Lance on the Rams? These are just all teams that I'm thinking, they either don't have a great quarterback one, or they have an unproven QB1, or they have a bad backup quarterback that Trey Lance could just slide right in there and potentially, eventually take that starting job. But for him to just sit there, I mean, the 49ers have a year to decide whether or not they're going to pay him his 5th-year option. So what exactly is going to happen? You're not going to pay a QB3 5th-year option just for him to be your QB3. You got to get off him at some point. Another team probably will pay for him. I mean, like I said, he's 6'4", 220. I mean, that's literally like the perfect body build for a quarterback in the league. Besides, and you're very, very mobile, very, very athletic. The only problem is, though, you need snaps, and you ain't going to get the snaps in an NFL game on the 49ers, who have Brock Purdy, who is the best quarterback on that team so far, and Sam Darnold, who you just lost your potential backup job to. So if I'm throwing my 2 cents out there, the 49ers, out of respect for Trey Lance, and I saw the report right before the show started, that Trey Lance wasn't even at the practice camp, wasn't even practicing today. So he clearly knew what was going on. So my guess would be he's taking a step away. Him and Trey Lance and the 49ers are going to get together. Trey Lance, we'll probably see soon that Trey Lance may request for a trade just to get out of that system. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. I believe I said by the first month, Trey Lance, I was thinking James Harden, but yeah, we can see Trey Lance gone probably very, very soon. And you know what? That would just be the most respectful thing to do out of the sake of Trey Lance and out of the sake of this organization, just to get something back from what could be, now in retrospect, a horrible, horrible trade for the 49ers. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.